Good afternoon. Thank you for your flexibility today. I now convene the December 4th and 5th, 2024 meeting of the work group to review the design and implementation of the teacher performance assessment. The Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act for teleconference meeting requires that work group members who are attending the meeting via teleconference disclose if any other individuals 18 years of age or older are present in the room at the remote location, and the general nature of the member's relationship with any individual. Are there any disclosures from our members attending via Zoom?
No.
No disclosures.
No disclosures.
Thank you. Work group members who are participating via Zoom must be visible at all times on the camera. Please log off Zoom if you need to leave the meeting and then log back in when you're ready to join the meeting. If you experience any broadband or internet connectivity problems while participating, that would be remedied by joining without video. You must announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off your camera. With that said, if you are not a member of the work group, we ask that you turn your camera off unless you are speaking on a particular item. We will now take roll call. Recording secretary, will you please call the roll?
Evan Leasky.
Here.
Alyssa Brown. Here. Patricia Camarillo. Here. Kathy Quasha. Here. Diaz Katana. Here. Brent Dupo.
Here.
Vanessa Escobar. Ursula Estrada Ravelas.
Here.
Corey Harvey. Pauline Haseman.
Yeah.
Alicia Herrera. Here. Linda Hong. Here. Jason Morgan.
Here.
Joshua Northam.
Here.
Benjamin Odell.
Here.
Mandy Redfern.
Here.
Kathleen Raleigh.
Here.
Josh Sackett.
Here.
Tina Sloan.
Here.
Tina Sullivan. Lee Walliner. Here. Matt Wallace.
Here.
Beverly Young. We have a form.
Fantastic. Beverly, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God, indivisible.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to remind everyone about the meeting procedures before we get to today's agenda. So we have work group members participating from the commission building, but also via Zoom. The public has the option to attend the work group meeting at the commission office or participate remotely through Zoom webcast or the US toll-free phone number. Please remember the microphones in the room. The meeting room technology includes built-in microphones, speakers, cameras, and monitors. Please note the ceiling microphones are always on and will pick up everything that is said at all times. So please be aware that anything that is said inside this room will be captured on the archived recording of the meeting. Therefore, any side conversations should be kept to a minimum, if at all, or happen outside of this room. Commenting and asking questions. So work group members attending the meeting via Zoom that would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom so that we know you would like to speak. Motions and roll call vote. Because this is a hybrid meeting, we will need to conduct each vote by roll call. Zoom identification. We'd like to ask the members of the public who attend the meeting via Zoom and would like to make public comment to check their Zoom ID. Your Zoom identification is the name used when logging into the meeting. It's important that the Zoom ID is accurate, so when we call on you, it'll be appropriate for public comment. Speaking of public comment, the chair will announce when the public comment period is open during the presentation of the agenda item. And we ask anyone who wishes to comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who attend the meeting at the commission office will pick up a request to address the workgroup card. They're green up here on the front table. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak. At that time, the individual will be able to approach the table and share your comments. Individuals who are joining us via Zoom webcast will need to click the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on a particular item. The moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and then will be able to share their comment. The Zoom ID name used by the member of the public to join the Zoom meeting will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. And then those individuals who join the meeting using the US toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on a particular item. The moderator will notify the individual it's their turn to speak by calling their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Please note only a partial phone number will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Please keep in mind public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker to speak on any particular agenda item. We ask that you keep your remarks brief and focused on the particular item you're speaking to. And finally, I want to draw your attention that this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting, the archived audio and video will be available on the Commission's website. Ursula.
Good afternoon, TPA Workgroup members. It is now time for us to review the November 2024 RDI TPA Workgroup meeting minutes. So I will give you a couple minutes to review the minutes, and then I will ask for any public comments on the minutes. All right. We will now open for public comment. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments regarding the workgroup meeting minutes?
No public comments. No public comments.
The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do I have a motion to approve the November 2024 RDI TPA Workgroup meeting minutes?
The November 6th RDI TPA Workgroup minutes.
Wonderful. And did we get a second?
Second.
Further discussion regarding the minutes? The recording secretary call for the vote.
Kevin Beasley, Sabra,
Aye.
Misha Camarello, Axie Quasia,
Aye.
Alia Katana,
Aye.
Rand Houston,
Aye.
Vanessa Escobar, Ursula Estrada Ravalas,
Aye.
Pauline Caseman,
Aye.
Sha Herrera, Linda Hearn, Jason Morgan, Joshua Norton,
Aye.
Benjamin Odell,
Aye.
Andy Redfern,
Aye.
Kathleen Rowley,
Aye.
Saget,
Aye.
Zong,
Aye.
Judy Warliner. Aye. Matt Wallace.
Aye.
Beverly Young. Motion carries.
We're going to move to item 2A on our agenda, which is our general session. Welcome. First, I want to just draw your attention up to the front. The norms that we have worked on and agreed to over the last 4 months are captured here. And so if you'll just take a moment to review them. And we always talked about being open to any changes. So I want to welcome any changes that you may see that you want to make. Anything you would like to add? Or would we like to accept them as they're written? If at any time you would like to see changes, please don't hesitate to let us know. With that, welcome everyone to our next meeting. We're happy to be here. It's nice to be in a room filled with most of us, and if not here, online. And so we're thrilled that everyone is here. Hope that if you traveled recently, you traveled safely, and we're looking forward to a great day. Lots of opportunity today to have discussions, work in small groups, really making sure that everyone's voices are elevated and heard, and strong discussions can take place. We're looking forward to a productive day. Thank you for being amenable to pushing back the meeting. Hopefully everyone who was struggling to get here today was able to calmly come into the space and be ready to work. So thank you. I'd like to open it to, we actually are joined today by 2 commission liaisons. We want to welcome Anna Marie Francois. And would you like to say anything to the work group?
Never said no to a mic before. I just want to say thank you all for being here. This is I think this is my first, maybe second official meeting. And as someone who has been deeply involved in teacher ed and the TPA since their inception, and the mother of someone who just recently finished the TPA process, as I read through the notes in preparation for the meeting and the updates on all the work that you've been doing, I am reminded of how important and powerful the work is, and that you have taken up this charge so seriously. It encourages me that we're going to get to the right place to make the teaching profession accessible, but also entry into it as rigorous as it needs to be, so that we have a strong pool of beginning candidates going into the field and staying in the field. So thank you all for your participation and I guess volunteerism, because nobody's paying you, right? Okay, so thank you so very much. The work really matters.
We're glad you're here today. And we're also joined by Commissioner Danette Brown. Would you like to say anything?
Yes, hello everyone. I'd like to echo my fellow commissioners. Thank you for everyone being there to do this important work. Again, I'm having terrible FOMO not being in the room with you, but I want to extend a thank you for being there. And I'm especially eager to listen to the conversations today about the recommendations. And I look forward also to the presentation tomorrow about the accreditation piece. I know that you're all going to do amazing, thoughtful work, and I look forward to seeing you in person next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mr. Ibrahim, do you have anything you would like to?
Just a thing or two. Yeah, I just want to, I mean, it is not too far out of my mind, the work involved in preparing sub-plans and leaving classrooms, leaving places of employment, disconnecting, finding time to read the many emails you're getting pestered about at 11 at night. You know, and I thank you for your commitment to this. I feel like I have spent a lot of time, I feel like I spend a lot of time with you all. Like I am in your recommendations and your thoughts and the scripts of our meetings and the audio transcripts. And I see something emerging in the recommendations that is powerful. And so I thank you, and thank you to the public for being engaged and for connecting with us and posting public comments, sharing letters. It has always been the intent of this work group that this is sort of an open forum. Bring your ideas and we will share. So the public comments, the letters have been shared with work group members in their binders. And then, you know, last but not least, I'd like to thank our staff. So Miss Rhonda Brown, could you? There we are. And just for those two, the amount of work that they do to prepare for this meeting, when they have a commission meeting that they're also preparing for simultaneously next week, I just gratitude is all I have. And then I'd like to introduce a new member to the RDI TPA staff team. This is Kristen Calderon. And Kristen is a Harvard Data Fellow who works with the commission, and her research, and I'm probably going to mess this up, but her research looks at establishing and understanding the causes for teacher preparation, for attrition in the teacher preparation pipeline. So when are we losing them? Where are we losing them? How can we keep them? So really happy to have her join the team and help out with this important work. So with that, I'm you know, as I am wont to do, want to remind us of our charge. This was adopted by the commission back, it seems like a lifetime ago. You know, to jump into the second part, that our objective is to ensure that these assessments are valid, authentic, formative in nature, embedded in preparation, and contribute to the program improvement through the accreditation system. We've done some good work defining what those subjective terms mean, and those will accompany any recommendations that go forward to the commission. Today is about focus area 1 and focus area 2. I'll frame out the activity a little bit more ahead of it, but we're going to be looking at the modifications needed to current assessments. And we're going to be looking at the recommendations for how programs might embed. And then just sort of anticipating future work. We have the accreditation staff in the back of the room. Could you please raise your hand? And you have fans here. And they will be with us tomorrow. They've prepared a presentation with about accreditation as you know, as was asked to cover accreditation overview, looking at preliminary accreditation and looking at clear accreditation. And there's going to be plenty of opportunity, dialogue, to talk. And the idea is that this is a dialogue between staff that do this work day in and day out, and all of you. Just looking back at the demographics of this group, you have all had, or almost all of you have had, a really rich experience in the accreditation space and in induction. And so looking forward to that tomorrow. We may be pushing an item today to the next day. Just there's room. We're focusing on you taking big, broad, lots of recommendations and consolidating them down. I'll talk a little bit about that in the setup for the next item. 4 and 5, those are coming a little bit in. We're going to start to broach the content of focus area 4 and 5. And I know some of you have already started to anticipate this. Dr. Tina Sloan online has already sent some good ideas about local scoring and wanting to kind of know more about what programs go through. And it's also starting to filter up organically through your recommendations. So looking forward to that. I think it's helpful as a touchstone to come back to our process. And so, you know, we move from kind of this divergent brainstorming where we're just getting recommendations out, and they may not be perfect, And they shouldn't be, because we don't want to have anything that's inhibiting the generation of ideas. And we have a process to refine them. And this is iterative. And I know I am just like overusing my jargon quota right now, but in this case, it's actually true. So work group meetings 1 through 5, we're generating ideas. We're going to start moving them to consolidated recommendations. More on that in a moment. And then after our January meeting, we will be taking initial recommendations to the commission for feedback. The commission will provide feedback, and then we'll have a chance to incorporate the feedback, do some thinking perhaps about feasibility in work group meeting 6, heading into sending forward draft recommendations to the commission in April. Again, we'll have one more chance to circle back with feedback from the commission, with additional information about feasibility, about cost, and refine our recommendations one more time before we send it to the commission in June for action. And then to just play this out under the Senate Bill 1263, this will become recommendations that, the recommendations that are adopted by the commission will become a charge to staff to develop work plans, and then implementation. And there's a reporting requirement to the legislature through August 15th of 2028. So you'll be able to track the progress of the work that you're investing your time in an ongoing way. Expect more charts, right? Just want to put that out there. And with that, Madam's chairs, hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So here, moving on to developing our consolidated recommendations. This is an information item. Staff, do you have a presentation on this?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do. In fact, I have. So I hope you'll humor me. I was mentioning earlier that I think I was frozen in time as a 9th grade teacher, and that's kind of where I live a little bit. So if you'll humor me, I'd like to do a little bit of a text, and just give you an opportunity to ask questions about process and surface idea. I just want to surface things that aren't clear, because I realize sometimes I'm not clear. And so if I could ask you to take out first consolidated recommendations development. That is handout 3A-1. For those of you that are following along online, you can go to our agenda. Here. Right? You can go to our online agenda. You will find as you scroll down that the items are hyperlinked in order. So what we're looking at here is handout 1. Open as sorry if you're getting dizzy online. And so what this is we are going to start. We have a recommendation development process that I'm going to touch back to. We're going to touch back to in a consistent way going forward, just so everybody is kind of clear of where we are, because these are going to be public facing. Everything we do is public facing. And we want to make sure that people that are watching or reading along or following along kind of know where we are along the spectrum of we're thinking about this and just kind of brainstorming to we are proposing this. And this is, we're going to push this through. I want people to understand that there's a process and that we're at the very beginning of the process. And so step 1 is a recommendation brainstorm. We've done a few of these, and this is where we go around and we say recommendations, and that's our opportunity. If you don't see the recommendations that you want in the set, speak it out, right? You have totally. And then we also have our recommendation form, which gathers everything all the recommendations you generate as a group in the intro. And that is shared with the chairs. And so there is oversight of that. That is, if there's a change in there, you see me strike through and say, I changed this, if like I got a message from a member that said, hey, I didn't mean to put that in, that kind of. And so then I send it out to you for scoring. And the purpose of scoring is just to, and this is for, there was a question about, I'm having, I don't know if I support these recommendations because there's overlap. And this is just kind of a quick sense of where the group is so that you can look at the rough body of recommendations in an area and get a sense of where everybody is on it. Because your job and the job that you're going to be doing today is to take these ranked brainstorm ideas clustered by theme, and you're going to turn those into solid, still set in Jello, plenty of time to evolve, recommendations. And so with that, I wanted to ask you to kind of scroll down, not scroll, you have paper in your hands. You can kind of follow it through on page 2, where those consolidated recommendations go forward to the commission. We've talked about that, and then it comes back in the draft. So that's the general development process. I want to note, just for transparency, that there has been movement. So I say I spend a lot of time with you and looking at your rankings and the recommendations that emerged in Focus Area 1 and Focus Area 2. There were some that emerged in Focus Area 2 that belonged in 1, and some in Focus Area 1 that belonged in 2. There are natural clusters emerging, and the chairs have given me license to categorize and recategorize, and they have control and access of the original of everything. So you will see that. It feels, my humble opinion, feel like there's a lot of coherence that you're going to see today. We are going to be looking at, let's see. All right. So you're going to be heading into workshop. And this is the moment, these are the moments that we're all built for as educators, right? This is the synthesizing of material, the weighing of consensus as represented in pie charts and scores, and the retooling of multiple recommendations into fewer than most, like 15 recommendation ideas into perhaps 3, 4, 5 solid recommendations where it's coherent. You don't need to leave anything out, but there's just a lot of duplication. So your job is to reduce that duplication while capturing the ideas according to the weight that has been assigned to them by this group. So if you see something that doesn't seem like a priority, maybe it's a 0 point something or a negative, that shouldn't figure prominently in a synthesized recommendation. So please use those scores to guide what you're emphasizing. Because when we go into these breakout rooms, you're not just working, you have the property of the entire work group in that room, right? And so that is why we've been very careful to document the will of the group, even when we're doing individualized or group breakouts, is because you're there to faithfully implement the will of the group. And we're going to bring it back, of course, to discuss. So, okay, I'm going on too long. So we have roles, the workshop instructions. The roles are facilitator. That should be kind of old hat by now. And so that's the person that enforces the norms. Sounds but the person that makes sure the norms are, I don't know how to say it. They enforce the norms. And then, the keeps everyone moving. And then there's a timekeeper that is partner in keeping everyone moving. And then there's a recorder that sends me an email, right? That sends me an email directly of the product of your work. That can be just one email. And we have a little bit of a frame for you. Because remember, we're going to be taking these recommendations to the commission. And the commission is charged with the health of a very big system. And so we do want to make sure that there is thoughtfulness around feasibility, theory of action, what we're trying to accomplish, and that is spelled out in the same way that we spent time doing definitions of formative so that we can say, this is what we mean by that. Similar concept here. So the frame we are proposing is the RDI work group recommends that. Then you insert the description of the recommendation. And then the recommendation is necessary because, let's put in a rationale. You also have, and this can evolve, but we have, good examples, condition codes. There are a number of recommendations that have circled around that because there was in the data, there was a concern about what was being seen in the data. Recommendations were generated from that. So that's all we're saying. And then theory of action. So what is the intent of the recommendation? So what's the recommendation? Why? And what's the intent? If you all find that too restrictive in your groups, blow it out of the water, do something else, because at the end of the day, this is your work group. I'm here to facilitate a process and to take direction from the chairs. But the ideas and what is presented to the commission is fully your authorship. So that is just a little bit on the frames. I like sentence frames. I mentioned ninth grade teacher. So I have been rambling on too long. Let me go back to the PowerPoint and then I'm going to talk about the groups. A lot of front loading here because there's a lot of release time. There's a lot of just working into it. So everybody has their first or second choice. It just worked out well that way. I can't promise that it's going to work out that well in the future. Maybe one of you had a third choice, but everybody was, it pretty much worked out. If you don't see your name here, then you're free to find the room that best matches your interest. Okay. So cost and financial accessibility. That is in room 151. And we have Beverly, Melissa, Vanessa, and Rebecca. And anyone who at the end of this doesn't see their name and wants to go into that. We are in room 152. We have equity and accountability. And that is Alyssa Brown. That two. Yep, there's two. Okay, there's an error. Colin, Talia, Jason, and then others, because there will be more that go into that group. And then also on the note of the sentence frame, these are recommendations. If there's something you're passionate about and you're not placed in that group, go to the group. Not here to restrain you, not here to over direct you. So formative value. Juliet, then Mandy, Matt, Brent. Integrated Educator Preparation Continuum. Kathleen, Kathy, Tina, Devin, and Ursula. Is there anybody that did not hear their name called? Joshua. Yep.
Adam, can you give a quick half a sentence description of each one?
Yeah.
Some of us are still deciding.
Oh, sure. Okay. So looking at this document with all the pie charts, focus area recommendation 1. So what this document is, sorry, I think it's worth the time to go through this. So I'm just going to, I know this is a little clumsy. I'm just going to do it. Good video with it. Right. So handout 2 for this item. So handout 2 of this item, and this is a process we're going to follow, unless it doesn't work for you and you provide feedback to that effect. But this is a process we intend to follow consistently, moving from brainstorm to consolidated recommendation. And so you'll notice here, these are our focus area 1. So the analysis of modifications needed to current assessments. And they're organized into themes. And the themes, A is cost and financial accessibility. So the folks that we identified on the slide that are going to be in that group are going to be looking at these recommendations from the work group, looking at the score assigned to them, looking at where they're duplicative and where they need to be separate recommendations. And, if you want to get into all right, we're looking at a 0.8, but was there disagreement? What did that sort of consensus look like? And you can go to the appendix. So I'm going to go to, then you can look at the chart, breakout of the charts for each of the pieces. So you will have the recommendations, you will have the consensus score, and you will have the charts. And your goal in the breakout is to, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ranging from a 1.8, which I believe is the highest scoring recommendation or brainstorm recommendation of any, to 0.1. Your job is to turn that into one or multiple recommendations using the frame or not, if you don't find it helpful, in the workshop. I'm going to stop there and just open it up for any clarifying questions about the process. And there's 4 themes, and that's kind of showing you each room is a theme and corresponds with the different, right? So we have equity and accountability that corresponds with this list. We have formative value that corresponds with this list. And we have integrated educator preparation continuum, which corresponds with this list. So those are going to be the breakout groups. These are the sources. The process is the way that you go from many non-specific recommendations to more consolidated, thought out recommendations.
One more, the scoring, local ownership and accessibility.
Yes, thank you for reminding
And
me.
that's what I think
So that was on the survey. That was eliminated because all of those pieces, the local scoring element came out very strong in the embedding of focus area 2. And so all of those just kind of naturally moved over that area. So tomorrow, and you can kind of, if you want to read ahead, the same document for focus area 2, you'll see the local implementation. Faculty application, one of that category inherited all of those because they just fit better with the other. It has nothing to do with that we have 4 rooms and I wanted to go from 5.
You say that again because I'm pretty sure the number 1 that I chose was the local scoring number. Did you say those?
Me
people were
too.
supposed to- Yeah, where were those people?
That's the second one.
Too, because I didn't see my name up there.
So the local scoring one was removed. All of the recommendations beneath it were moved into focus area 2 because there was a prominent cluster of local scoring within the context of embedding that they've just fit better. So it's now, yeah, sorry.
Under equity and accountability?
That's what it sounds like.
Focus area 2.
No, it's the separate document.
Separate document.
So that's tomorrow.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Now I'm all kinds of.
Maybe
confused.
at the end of today or tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
So just to kind of refresh the schema, we have our charge, we have the different focus areas that align with the sections of code, the modifications, the assessment, that's what we're doing now. Next, we're going to do the embedding, that's the part 2. And then focus area 3 is about accreditation. We're going to, our staff is going to present that tomorrow. And so then we'll do a brainstorm tomorrow. And then we'll pick up on form. Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering. I'm trying to understand the methodology for essentially weighting or ranking the way to think about the score of for example, on equity and accountability, we want to use 1.75 and then all the way down to the lowest weighting. Probably just because I'm trying to figure out how it is that when I looked at the actual pie charts on these, it seems longer. So I'm not quite sure again how we did that.
So it's kind of a Likert rating. So the neutral is 0, the support is 1, the strong support is 2, the oppose is -1, the strong oppose is -2, and you're looking at the average of 20 voting members that got their votes in on.
I figured. Okay. All right. I will. Put on my.
And then the chart is what gives you a little bit more nuance about what's behind that score. Because there are some where you get there's some there you could see it visually right off the bat. There's a lot of colors on that chart and a lot of different slices, and there's differences of opinion there. And then there are some that are big blocks. It's like Pac-Man. only two colors. They're opposed and strong, or they're support and strong support. So this is good. This is what I was hoping for, is surfacing all of this, because I live with this stuff, but I know that, you know, it's in this. So please, if you have any more questions, let's surface them. Yes, Colin.
Is there any sort of vision around the number that they're trying to get it down to, whether or not something that has a very low score is sort of, to enable us to move forward, is sort of dismissed to some extent?
I would consolidate at this point, but not dismiss, would be my thought. A negative, because even when you're looking at a 0.75, that's still a positive support score. That's still above neutral. This group supports that. But I wouldn't cut anything. I would say let's do our best to reduce the duplication, and then, you know, we have a chance to refine these. And so if there's some that, you know, that look like, because after you do this, you are going to hate me and Google Forms by the time this process is over. Because after you do this, you're going to have another pass at indicating support for what was synthesized. And so if it's still trending low, or looks like it's separating from the stronger clusters, we'll be able to see that.
I have a second one.
Yes, sir.
Which is sort of following on from what you're saying. Once we do one and then two tomorrow, there could well be conflicts between those two things. For example, if local scoring is like a really big push that everyone wants, then the ones around some of the ones in equity here may no longer be as relevant as they are if we're not doing local scoring. And when do we do that piece?
So I would, after we get the feedback from the commission, would be when we're going to start to think about, okay, now we have feedback from the commission on the broad set, or a broad set, because we likely won't have 5 and 4 completely done by the time we go to the commission with initial recommendations, definitely by draft recommendations. It's a pretty tight timeline, as you're all aware. But my thought would be, and what is in the plan is that is the substance of the discussion, with feedback from the commission and feasibility feedback from staff, that we have in between the initial recommendations in February and the draft recommendations in March, April. So that's going to be what we're doing, because we'll have a defined set, and we're going to be tweaking and polishing and doing any elaboration that needs to be done, or explanation, and taking feedback, considering, deliberating as a group. So right now we're, you know, if this is the brainstorm, we're still kind of divergent, you know, and we'll continue to converge, but I don't think we're at a point where we want to take any ideas off the table.
I will trust the process, but I'm having a little trouble with the use of numbers to quantify these things, because on a lifer scale, either the assumption that the choices are equidistant from one another on the scale, I don't think it's true in this case. And I'm also a little troubled that in focus area 1, nothing is negative. Like everything is supported to some extent. And I think when we talk through the nuances of them, some of them will be mutually exclusive of each other. And so some things will have to come off the table because they don't fit. But the fact that everything is a positive score makes me suspect that quantitative nature of this type of thing, rather than the narrative nature of considering these options. So, but like I said, I'll trust the process that when we talk through these things, you know, we'll come to the right emphases. But I'm a numbers person usually, but I don't like these numbers.
Well, I mean, this is shorthand for you to take into breakouts. This is a numeric, imperfect numeric representation with a slightly better pie chart to give you a little shade and nuance, so that the people that are in other breakout rooms are represented in some way in that, as you're making decisions and thinking and synthesizing. So there's when we get to, and we're at the tipping point here, right? It's December and we're moving into the new year, and our work has been building knowledge and developing brainstorm recommendations. Our work will be, so that's divergent. Our work in the new year with the commission, in dialogue with the commission, will be converging on a set of recommendations. And I don't anticipate, that what ends up is going to be achieved via Google form. I think it's expedient in this case. So let's go back to,
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I had a question for the formative value.
Yes.
For the third one, streamline by reviewing. Could you talk to me, why was that placed in the formative category? All right, formative value C, the third.
Streamline the TPA by
Streamline the TPA by reviewing.
There's also one about like online platform.
Categories aren't perfect. If there are ones that you feel strongly need to be moved, please tell me.
Right, Jason.
Do you see one? Do you see a?
One of the things I left away with last time was I didn't feel like we had a category that was focusing on actually redesigning the TPA itself, like changing the components, making it more, the question is more relevant or the task, or taking this out. So I didn't know if it needed another category or if it fit with the, like our A, B, C, D, maybe we cover everything.
If you feel, well, let's just kind of, we're gonna have to handle this ad hoc. If you feel that there are recommendations that belong in another focus area category that we're working on today, then please tell me and we'll transfer it. If you feel, but I would encourage you to look at tomorrow's as well, because, for example, you mentioned this sort of the actually adjusting the format and design of the TPA. There's this that really also emerged strongly in the context of embedding, because it was like, how can we, if you look at focus area 2 and you look at that recommendations for the section A, you see a lot of suggestions around chunking, breaking it down, integrating. And so I'm happy to, this is my best stab at where these things belong. And if there are things that need to be transferred across focus areas right now, happy to do it. If there's one that's like, this doesn't have a home anywhere, we'll deal with it. And maybe it just stands alone as its own recommendation in the meantime. But before you do that, check to see if it has found a new home in focus area 2.
All right, so moving into breakout rooms, we're gonna need about,
Can we get a list of those breakout rooms?
Yeah.
For those of us who aren't listed in a group. Juice, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
so it's gonna take about 10 minutes to transition from in here to the breakout rooms. So let's just let's take a break for those 10 minutes so that they can set up the technology and get us started. Please remember, like Adam said, if you feel compelled to switch, you are welcome to do that. If you have ideas for multiple groups, feel free to go into another room, and please welcome people if they come into your room. We're hoping this is fluid so that everyone feels their voice is heard in whichever room or rooms that they're interested in going to. And so the outcome is dependent on your category. So some categories may lend themselves to 1 or 2 recommendations, and then others might end up being more like 3, 4, or 5. And don't feel limited by a number in any way, shape, or form. We can keep refining down the pipeline. Just figuring out what goes together, but also, and I think some of you were speaking to this already, some of them are going to be at odds with one another, right? So we have to grapple with that too. And this is our opportunity to do that. If you need anything, staff will be in here. Please come back and ask so that this time is as productive as possible.
And then just to interject for the public audience, you are welcome to join us in any of the work group rooms if you desire.
And then the public comment will be after we reconvene in this room. And one more thing I'd like to add is if they're in this process and in the debrief, if there are recommendations that you feel need to be put on the table that have not been put on the table, put them on the table. This would be also a helpful gap analysis for you in terms of, hey, I didn't think that this part was addressed as effectively. I'm putting a new focus area 1 idea. It's up to you.
Clear timeline?
So our hope was that this would take about 45 minutes. So if you're starting at about 3:05, the goal would be to finish about 3:50. That might be aspirational. We'll see. We'll check in about 3:45 and see where everybody's at. And if we need more time, great, we'll take it. This is a really important part of the process. Our original goal was to do focus area 1 and 2 today. We might not be able to do both today. We may need to do some of that tomorrow, and that's okay too. Right?
So if we have a 10-minute transition to breakout rooms, and me down, if you need anything, flag one of us down. And we hope you have a good conversation, and looking forward to the debrief and last part of the day.
Let's open the breakout rooms. So online you can.
Was everyone able to complete the task at hand?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any folks who, as you know, I'm not there. I'm wondering if there's still anyone in any of the work rooms that we were in.
Oh. I'm looking around. It looks like we're missing. No, everyone's back in the room.
A couple of people might on the bathroom or something, but
Okay. Shall we wait for them before we proceed?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm emailing you, Adam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did our group agree that we completed our task?
No.
We did it, and I'm trying math.
got it.
If not, hold off before you send. If you feel comfortable with where you got, I saw group 4.
They're understanding this is a draft?
Do you not feel?
This is a draft.
Mention you're saying?
Well, we're gonna.
Should we send you notes?
Yeah, something that we can look at.
Okay.
This is not.
Just tell me what you have.
Just email.
So,
Those are public comment though.
Yeah.
we
So-
are back.
Okay, great. So, hey, Adam, did you receive a recommendation from each group?
I received a recommendation from your group, from group 4, but nobody yet. And so there's a little time. 4A is the share out, so we still have to do public comment for this item.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. So we will go ahead and proceed. It is now time for open public comment. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Public comment. Start with Kimberly Lilienthal. Maybe right up here.
Here, I'll shoot person. Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to provide public comment on behalf of Placer County Office of Education. I represent both teacher preliminary and induction programs as we're accredited for both, and I think that's important in my comments. As you continue in this recommendation process, we'd like you to consider our concern about one proposed recommendation to move the TPA from the preliminary credentialing phase to induction. This would fundamentally disrupt the the intentional structure of a two-tiered credentialing system in California. Specifically, moving the TPA to induction would mean assessing teachers against standards taught in a different program, since most candidates complete their preliminary in one program and then move to a different program for induction. Second, the shift directly contradicts the 2015 induction program standard, which are specifically designed to provide mentoring and support in growth towards mastery of the CSTP, not to assess the foundational teaching skills in the TPEs. Third, moving to the TPA to induction would create a significant financial burden for our consortium partners, as our program would have to raise fees in order to finance the additional faculty required to implement the assessment within the induction program or within our induction program. And finally, please consider candidates who might enter induction years after completing their preliminary program. Assessing candidates on standards from a distant educational experience is neither fair nor beneficial. We urge you to maintain a TPA within the preliminary credential phase, preserving the integrity of our preparation system. Thank you.
Andrea Rutner, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Greetings, my name is Andrea Reuter. Throughout my 38 years of teaching, I have mentored many student teachers. In 2017, I had the privilege of working with an amazing student teacher named Juan Carlos Garcia. Juan Carlos successfully finished his semester of student teaching with me. He recorded his lessons without any difficulties, and I assumed he was on track to finish the program. However, he never managed to get through the vast amount of writing required for the TPA. In his words, he was completely overwhelmed by the amount of writing required. As his mentor teacher, I can attest to the fact that he is a competent writer in both English and Spanish. Many of the tasks in the TPA do not reflect the reality of what real teachers actually have time to do, and the TPA is not a fair way to judge teaching skills. Juan Carlos is a great teacher, whether or not he's able to write lots of repetitive comments about his teaching. A good writer can just make up stuff and pass the Ed TPA. As Juan Carlos said, quote, "The person who's grading that Ed TPA is just reading something, but they were not in the room observing you teach." Juan Carlos's story is heartbreaking, and there are so many others who have had similar experiences. He knows at least 2 others enrolled in his program with him who dropped out because of the overwhelming nature of the multiple tasks required by the TPA. The field of education is losing smart and competent candidates because of this faulty tool. The TPA does not evaluate what truly makes a good teacher, such as passion for teaching, love of learning, joy of working with students, and classroom management. Juan Carlos has all of these qualities and more. He should be a credentialed teacher, but instead he works as a substitute, earning a much lower salary. Please consider his story and make the decision to eliminate the TPA as a credentialing tool in California. California deserves a better process that will help us recruit a diverse cadre of teachers who are really passionate about working with students. I have submitted a longer version of his story for public comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Eva Jones, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi there, Shive Jones, Executive Director of Human Resources, overseeing and supporting educator recruitment efforts, including barrier removal across San Diego County and the state. I've also been faculty at 3 universities over the last 15 years, working with teacher prep programs and developing coursework, teaching courses, and providing TPA support. One of the panel's recommendations, which I understand may change, is to move TPAs to induction programs. This defeats the purpose of TPAs, which are to assess pre-service candidates' knowledge and skills around the teacher performance expectations, which are the standards teacher prep candidates interact with and must demonstrate in pre-service programs in order to attain their preliminary credential. In reviewing previous meetings, I observed panel members express confusion about induction versus teacher prep standards, question the purpose of TPAs, struggle with why they are in the meeting to begin with, show a lack of understanding of the TPA process, and continuously misidentify the induction program as BITSA, and hence kept referring to beginning teachers instead of preliminary credential holders. This is cause for questions about who's on the panel and how much accurate information they're actually being provided to make informed decisions. The recommendation to move TPA to induction is misinformed and highlights the lack of understanding of the many things that I just mentioned. I would encourage the following. Keep a centralized scoring to ensure equitable experiences for all candidates. Explore the conditions in which candidates are not passing. So, for example, which TPA did they complete? Did they struggle in student teaching? Did they take advantage of the support they received? And could it be that they're struggling in other areas of teacher prep? And just as the exam is designed to catch, they're unable to demonstrate their understanding and execution of TPEs. Integrate TPA pass rates into accreditation to ensure the TPA is embedded in the coursework and that consistent support is given to candidates. And lastly, keep the TPA as a component of pre-service. Thank you.
Thank you. Reese Soray, please unmute your microphone. Comment.
Thank you to the members of the committee. I've served as a classroom teacher for 38 years. In that time, I had a number of student teachers. I was also a support provider to new teachers in the induction program. And currently, I am a supervisor for the UC Irvine Master of Arts in Teaching program. The last thing we want to do is reduce standards for teaching quality to receive the credential, but we must remove unnecessary barriers to recruiting teachers who reflect their community, especially first-generation college grads. The time and the cost of the EdTPA, these are barriers. Some of my student teachers have jobs because they still have to pay for tuition. They have to buy professional clothing for their student teaching, and they have to buy materials. They're also doing coursework and research and teaching 2 classes a day, and they are being seen by professors, by their mentor teachers, and by their supervisors constantly. They are writing lesson plans with feedback. Every single one includes all 7 of the EdTPEs over and over and over again with debriefs, reflections, reports, and scores. It's a habit. They do not need the EdTPA on top of that. Last year, all 3 of my student teachers became sick from stress and from just lack of sleep while they were working on the EdTPA. It repeats what they're already doing, but in an artificial way. They don't talk about writing lesson plans. They talk about writing the EdTPA lesson plan because that's not written for the students that they have in their class. When they're spending all their time on the EdTPA, they're not giving the best they can to the students that they have. So at this point, it repeats too much. They're going to have 2 more years of this EdTPE instruction in induction. They don't need this test as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no additional requests.
At this time, the public comment period is over, is now closed, I should say. And so with that, do any work group members have questions or comments? Hearing none, we will move on to, oh, there we go, Dr. Kathleen Rowley.
Sorry, I want to acknowledge and thank the people who are out in the field doing the work with teachers and their patience and preparation as they shared their thoughts with us. I think a lot of us really appreciate that dose of reality that you all brought to the table. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kathleen. I also want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be at this meeting. I know that you care about the student teaching experience, and I just want to thank you for your presence here today as well. Any other comments?
Brent?
This is Brent Dukor, San Jose State University. I just want to say that I appreciate very much the public comment part of this process. And I want to acknowledge that many of the things that are being raised by our public commentary are actually being discussed inside the walls rooms of this particular work group. So I just don't want to leave any impression that our silence or my silence somehow means that I don't hear. Not only do I hear, but I've experienced many of the things that have been described by people today. And I think we all have our own personal stories to tell. So just be aware, I think, from the public perspective, that we are very much engaged with what you're saying and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Ursula,
All right.
can we go back and just double check with each of the work groups that they completed the work?
Absolutely. So work group, we'll start with the room number. The work group that met in room 151. Were you able to complete the task at hand?
Yes, I'm refining our recommendations to send to Adam right now.
Thank you. The group that met in room, was it 152? Were you able to complete your task?
I have drafts and I'm sending them to Adam at the moment.
I am so sorry. I'm having difficulty hearing you.
We have drafts of our recommendations and I'm structure the grammar to send it to Adam.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. The group that met in room 153, formative value, were you able to complete the task?
We have very rough draft that I did send to Adam already.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I was in group room 158 and we completed our task. So it sounds like all 4 groups have completed their drafts. So with that, are we ready to move on to the next item, 4A?
We are not.
We're getting closer.
So item 4A is to present and prioritize recommendations on focus area 1. And it sounds like we are still in the process of sending information to Adam. So we do not have that prepared just yet. We're also limited in terms of time. You have a suggestion?
If I may, Madam Chair, one possibility that we could do is we could stay in item 3A and conduct a debrief to talk about, to help us learn how to help you more in the process. And then consider, we could also consider perhaps a breakout tomorrow prior to 4A to finalize. Up to the group, up to you, up to the chairs, up to the group. Those are some items.
What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking it might be useful because although some groups said with confidence that they completed a draft, I think they may benefit for some additional time that's built into the meeting. So I'm wondering if we could make some optional time here. If you need additional time in your workout group or some exercise. Breakout room. That you could return to the breakout room for the duration of the time that we have together today. And if you are prepared and you are ready to present those things, we would start with that item tomorrow morning after the presentation on accreditation. So we could use this time to prepare for that or continue the work.
We need 13 people to remain. right? Like,
In other words, do we require quorum for the work groups to continue is the question.
Not agenda for you. They're required to stay here.
Maybe we can see how many would benefit from or would want to participate in such a thing and see if we have a quorum with that.
Okay, then we'll go group by group. So group that met in room 151, would you like to remain to complete or refine your work at all?
151. Would it be possible for it to be recorded and the notes to the members of the individual work groups as well? Because we have a great recorder, Rebecca, but we haven't seen what she's ended up with. And so for us to like, that would be useful to me is because we wrote a lot. I think Rebecca wrote a lot and she did a great job, but we haven't seen it yet. So it'll be hard for us to sort of finalize it. So if that could be sort of an intervening step, that would help.
How about I will send all of them to.
Well, I think the work group needs to see their product first before it's shared with everybody.
So we'll send each to the work groups.
That would be helpful.
So, you would just to reiterate, you would like to remain for the additional time to review what your draft and do some refinements. Is that correct? Okay, good.
Oh, it's what you said.
We have a
So-
yes.
Okay, great. And so how about the group that met in room 152? Would you like to remain? And
Can I ask my question at this point? Like, we've got 22 minutes that we're supposed to now break out into other rooms. Are we proposing that we're going longer than 5? Because it was made clear earlier that we were not going to extend the meeting, but I don't see how we're going to break out, go into another room, sit down, get our computers out, get everything emailed to us before we adjourn at 5. So I think we need to talk about that first.
Probably right. I was hoping we would just go break and do it right away, but if we're gonna spend time talking about it, probably not. Right, Ursula?
I would agree.
So we could adjourn.
Yep.
And then we could come back into 3A for a period of time after the ideas have settled and we're fresh. And then then we can move into 4A for presentations. Possibility.
Does that sound? Sorry, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
No. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Can you rephrase that for everybody to hear in a succinct manner?
Right. So we are currently at item 3A. We took public comment. We can stay in this item and just adjourn for the evening. That'll give you time to process. I can still email to the groups so that you have time to reflect, to think. And then what we can do is we can stay in this item for the next day. All right.
You have to do the roll call.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, we'll kind of do our formalities and
You're
pressing pause on this. And I like that. So we're pressing pause on this item. We're going to eat and we're going to sleep and we're going to think. And then we're coming back the next day, totally fresh. And, jumping back into the same item for a limited focused period of time in order to get to 4A, which is presentations. We have additional time built in tomorrow, so will not put us too far behind.
And then we'll repeat this entire exercise for focus area 2 to the presentations.
Does that sound amendable to everybody who's here? All right.
Yeah.
Then we shall proceed as such.
Great. So do you have any closing comments?
Thank you for grappling. This is the tough stuff, and we're going to be doing this for the next 6 months. So this, there are many bites at the apple. Yes, and thank you for entering into the tension and grappling with this stuff. This is
So we will now recess day one of the work group meeting. Sleep well, eat well. See you in the morning.
Shall we?